Good evening, beautiful ladies. मैंने देखे हैं सभी रंग दुनिया के. हाँ ये दुनिया बड़ी नकीली. आपका क्या नजरिया है? Is the glass half empty or half full? Proverbial phrase generally used rhetorically to indicate that a particular situation could be a cause for pessimism, half empty, or optimism, half full, or as a general litmus test to simply determine an individual's worldview and how we perceive of a situation. For every minute of anger, you're losing 60 seconds of happiness. Power of gratitude is phenomenal. When I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. My dear Rakeshwari, your book on building a happy family is an eye opener to a lot of parents. In fact, as you have mentioned in your book, when a sapling doesn't grow well, we will fix soil and water, not the sapling. I strongly believe it is the same with children, and it is a child who gives birth to a mother. More on these, yet simple, yet so powerful parenting techniques are beautifully mentioned in Rageshwari's book, Building a Happy Family, and your chapter number 3 on Dream Board is my personal favorite. Ladies, if you could get your own copy, go and grab it now. I have to tell you, Rageshwari, that in 2 days we had sold all the copies to our zealous members and we did have a requirement for more. So without further ado, let me invite our very able joint treasurer, Pallavi Pava, to open the session and announce the launch of our book club, the Flow Literary Circle. Dear members, if you want to join our Flow Literary Circle, please connect with the head, Mrs. Pooja Chopra of the book club. There is a good news for the non-members as well. You may join it too with the payment of some nominal fee. And before we begin, I want to play a short little video of our elite sponsor, Araya. This place is absolutely divinely and safe to travel, especially in these times, as it is at a very drivable distance and they are maintaining high safety levels. IT team, could you please play the video? Thank you.
Lovely. This place looks really stunning. It is indeed a winsome, wisdomful Wednesday for us all today. for we have amidst us the multi-talented Rageshwari. Rageshwari is an actor, a highly accomplished professional singer, former MTV VJ, and a motivational speaker on the power of wellness and mindfulness. Her own recovery from facial paralysis at the peak of her career in 2000 was the beginning of her journey into mindfulness. Her miraculous pregnancy is another testament to the power of wellness and manifestations. Rageshwari has worked with the legendary Jack Canfield and released India's first affirmation CD with the path-breaking guru of affirmations, the late Louis Hay. Her videos on meditation and the ancient Tibetan rites have gone viral on YouTube. Rageshwari's diverse work takes her across the globe, from performing at the Nobel Peace Center to working with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to working in Pakistan with children rescued from terrorist training camps, and in India for the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation on maternal mortality. Rageshwari is one of the most exciting speakers globally on motivation, wellness, and mindfulness. Welcome to Flow Ludhiana, Rageshwari. IT team, could you please play the video?
मैंने देखे सभी रंग दुनिया के, अरे हाँ ये दुनिया बड़ी रंगीली.
Yeah, right in the house. Oh man, you are the one who make the world go round. Give me hope and love to me when I'm down, baby girl. You're the oxygen in my life, baby girl. You're my universe, I'm a rhyme.
मैंने देखे सभी रंग दुनिया के, अरे हाँ ये दुनिया बड़ी रंगीली. हर रस में नया है नशा इसके, अरे हाँ ये दुनिया बड़ी नशीली.
Thank you.
And today we are extremely fortunate to have our Flow Literary Circle head, Pooja Chopra, as the moderator. A management graduate by choice, a facilitator by profession, and a counselor by heart. A graduate from St. Francis College for Women, Hyderabad, an ex-City banker who currently is part of the think tank for ProMap Univariety, and an MIEE, Microsoft Innovative Educator expert. She is a recipient of the Special Meritorious Service Award by International Award for Young People in 2018. Pooja Chopra is currently a career counselor, a facilitator for commerce and mass media for higher secondary grades at Satpal Mittal School, Ludhiana. An avid reader and a passionate learner, Pooja Chopra is currently working with United Nations volunteers and conducting webinars on imparting 21st century under the project Strengthening NYKS and NSS. Pooja, could you please take over? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Thank you. Greetings, dear Rageshwari. It is indeed an honor and our proud privilege to have you amongst us. On the onset, we would like to congratulate you on your wonderful book and warmly welcome you for this much-awaited, informative and interactive book discussion session on your lovely book, Building a Happy Family, 11 Practices of Mindful Parenting. Before we begin, I would like to read a few lines from the foreword by Dr. Shashi Tharoor on Rageshwari's book for all our viewers. In the words of Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Building a happy family beautifully disentangles the complexities of parenting in our modern world. Rageshwari, through childhood anecdotes, personal experiences, and through research, emphasizes the need for conscious, compassionate, and mindful parenting so that little ones can thrive and grow. In the words of Farah Khan, a much needed book for parents in this millennium. Rageshwari, thank you so much for this amazing book. According to me, every page, every practice in this wonderful book is pure empowerment. It truly encourages us as parents to channel the love, to embrace spirituality with a new meaning and apply mindful techniques to love more, smile more, and be truly grateful for all the choices, blessings we have been bestowed upon by the Almighty. A warm welcome to you, dear Rageshwari. May I now request our lovely guest, Rageshwari Lumba, to please tell us something about herself. Over to you, dear Rageshwari.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Firstly, namaste, assalamu alaikum, and a big hello to everybody who's streaming. I'm so inspired. I'm so happy to be with Flo, Fiki, Ludhiana. Big hand for you ladies. You know, it's just been absolutely brilliant working and coordinating with Mannat and with Pooja. Thank you so much. You know, as the book on the surface is about mindful parenting, but in essence, in a deeper meaning, it's actually just asking us to connect with our inner child. Because the truth is, we're all successful, that we're all geniuses. And when we grew up, when we were babies and when we were toddlers, we truly believed that we are absolutely brilliant. Now, science research shows that when we ask little toddlers, what do you want to do? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a singer. I want to be a prime minister. I want to be this. And when they grow up, why is it that motivation dips after the age of 10 and 11? Because children are naturally mindful. But well-meaning parents, well-meaning adults, well-meaning teachers put our known pressures on them. So what children see when we're consistently telling them, you've got to study well, you've got to do well in this class, you've got to, be kind, you've got to be loving, they actually perceive it as that love is conditional. I better do well in school, and that's when mama and papa will love me. And interestingly, we start losing connect with our authentic selves, and we start conforming because trying to fit in. And interestingly, as we grow up into adults, here we are. We are like a factory line production. We only believe in the societal definitions of what success is, like a corporate corner office, or you have to have so many rewards, you have to have so many medals. And in doing that, we've actually lost the true essence of life, which is I'm successful without awards, without rewards, that I am truly lovable. I love and respect myself. I love and respect everybody else. And that's when jealousy and competition comes in, which actually does not allow us to really love each other, because we were taught at a very young age how to, separate each other with this person stands first. And so if you don't stand first, you're a backbencher. If you're a backbencher, the teacher doesn't love you. So these are all very subliminal messages that we've all grown up with. We've all grown up with. And sad but true, we think tomorrow we will be happy when we'll be married. Tomorrow we will be happy when our children will get married. Tomorrow we'll be happy when we'll get a job. And we taught this to our children, and not realizing that happiness is now, right here, right now. It's not a moving target. Because if it wasn't a moving target, and if it truly was true that you'll be happy with a corporate corner office, or you'll be happy if you're a tycoon, then some of the richest and some of the most successful people, according to societal definitions, would not have mental health problems. If just being married was the destination for a woman to be happy, then most women would not feel trapped in a marriage. If just being a biological mother was the path towards feeling complete, then most women would not get depressed after having a baby. It happens because we were never taught to truly value the inner child. You're perfect the way you are. Your parents love you in spite of your mistakes. Failures need to be embraced. Challenges need to be loved and nurtured. And that is the path towards happiness, towards evolution. So, in a deeper sense, the book basically tells you simple stories how to reparent yourself, because parenting is about, bringing up the parent and not the child. And all of us as adults need reparenting. We need to love ourselves and reparent ourselves. So we will talk about this, in depth with my beloved Manat and with my beloved Pooja, with all the questions that she has for us. But I would say that, everything, my journey changed and sort of got enhanced when I failed, when I made, when I had the greatest challenge in my life, when I lost everything, which is 20 years back, when I had my facial paralysis. And then that's what I learned, which actually I never learned in school, right? Because the greatest lesson that we should learn in life is, can we love our mistakes and can we love our failures? If you've mastered that, you will just master happiness. So shall we begin, dear Pooja? I cannot. Could you all hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I think. Hi, Pooja, you there? Some glitch probably. I guess. We'll try to fix it up.
Should we take a question?
Yes. Yeah. I think we're just gonna.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, I lost it.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, my first question to you would be, you can change your life if you change your thoughts. You can change your mood right away if you change your words. Words have power, and every illness has a frequency, and it is connected to a thought pattern. And you believe that when we change the thought pattern, we can change the illness. Can you please discuss with us the powers of affirmation and some guidelines on how we can create our own affirmations?
Wow, it's a very, very powerful thing. If you really want to really, feel uplifted right away, we need to be aware of our inner dialogue. So when we talk about mindfulness, it's basically being in awareness. It's just becoming aware about what you're thinking, being aware about what is Rageshwari thinking. So affirmations is this inner dialogue. जिस चीज के बारे में हम बार बार सोचते हैं, जिस लफ्ज को हम बार बार, जिसका इस्तेमाल बार बार करते हैं, becomes an affirmation. It can be a positive affirmation, it can be a negative affirmation. So for example, 2 years before my marriage, when I was sitting with my doctors, and my doctors told me, oh, it's going to be very difficult for you, to have your own child. So while they are friends who I love them, doctors were telling me, the difficulty in the path towards my conception, I mentally reduced their volume and I increased the volume of my inner affirmation. So my inner affirmation was, what they're saying is not my reality. Thank you, dear universe. Thank you for my healthy and happy baby. Thank you for my healthy and happy baby. So every time the outer world would remind me I'm 40, or every time the outer world would remind me I have a retroverted uterus or a thyroid or severe endometriosis, I would immediately diminish their volume and enhance my inner volume. So basically an affirmation is consistently saying something about what you desire. While we get completely mentally paralyzed when we hear what is. For example, it could be a health crisis, or you don't have a job, you don't have financial freedom. You can mentally paralyze, this is my life. And people are consistently telling you, you don't have money, you're not married, you will not be a success. So that becomes our inner dialogue, and which we need to stop, because your inner world should have nothing to do with the outer world. Your inner world basically should enhance the outer world. So affirmations are just a sentence. It's a creative sentence that you can build about what you desire in your life. So if you are suffering from a health crisis, you could affirm, I'm grateful my body is healing on a daily basis. Or I'm grateful that I'm moving towards complete immunity. And you keep saying this on a daily basis. So every time the outer world reminds you that you're ill, or you have body aches, or you have pain, consistently say that. And scientific research on that is absolutely powerful as well, Pooja. Because when we say something positive, what we do is we actually activate the positive neural pathways. And when we do that, dopamine, which is a pleasure chemical, gets released into our body. And the reward centers light up in our brain. And that's when we feel motivated and powerful. And it's really, really powerful for children and adults for sure. But with children, it's amazing, to see them when they want to go on stage, but they're scared. So, I have these amazing programs with children. We say, come on, high powered body language posture. So hands up in the air. And we say, I love the stage. I love my audience. And first they're scared to say it. We say, just keep saying it. I love the stage. I love the audience. I love the stage. I love the audience. I love the stage. And they say it 10 to 15 times. And then they're like, Rageshwari, I will go on stage, because the brain has now surpassed the fear. So that's how powerful affirmations are. It's this mastery of an inner dialogue.
Wow, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, my second question to you again is a continuation of power of gratitude and affirmation. You've mentioned to us that you are grateful for your gurus and everybody who's caused pain. I truly believe in the magic of gratitude. A gratitude journal you mentioned is straight from the heart. So my question to you is, how frequently should I update my gratitude journal?
Oh, it should be a day, gratitude should just become a way of life, Pooja, just basically a way of life. So at all times, because, people want something good in their life. They always want the law of attraction to work. And I always have clients who come and tell me, but it's not working. I'm not getting that. I was affirming for a good man or a good woman, and this person came along. And I say, well, we have to understand that even if it was someone different than you desired, is because of your law of attraction. So it's very important. You cannot just say it works when good things happen. When bad things happen, you should in fact be all the more aware. What did I do? What was I thinking that I attracted this? Because you attract everything with the power of your thought. So gratitude should be a daily practice at any given time. Like right now, I'm just grateful that we have all these wonderful ladies and wonderful gentlemen and children hearing us from Fiki Flow. I'm so grateful that we are all connected across the globe. So how often you need to update it in your mind? You need to just consistently update it at all times. It should become second nature, like breathing. Just breathing. And you can handwrite your gratitude journal, because texting or typing an affirmation or a gratitude note doesn't send any impulse to the brain. But when you handwrite it, that's why Ayurveda says handwrite, because it's the deepest meditative practice you can have, which is tangible, just write. So that's when you can write, thank you, thank you. And you can trick the brain, to make it into a prayer. So if you're seeking a good companion, if you're seeking a child, if you're seeking a new home, you can actually write it as an affirmation and add thank you to it. So you trick your brain that it's already come into your physical world. And it's science. It's absolutely scientific, which interestingly, our grandparents, our elders, our parents knew about this so brilliantly, because they would keep saying, shukar karo, and we'd say, oh, shukar, all the time. Now we understand, my goodness, they were like scientists.
Actually, that's lovely. Thank you so much. I have a few statements, and I would like you to help me frame them. So what I understood from the book was, it's also important that we frame the right statement, like you just mentioned, right? So I have a few statements. I want you to help us frame this. Okay, so the first one is, I've had an amazing day.
Lovely. Now the thing is, I've had an amazing day.
Yeah.
So you want to, in the evening, write a gratitude note on it. Fabulous. Now the interesting bit is, because it's all about creativity, I want you all to give me, what do you all think you all will write? So you've had an amazing day. In your mind, you will process everything that happened. So Pooja, tell me, I want to see, how will you write?
I'm thankful for the lovely things that happened to me in my life today. I'm thankful to the lovely people who came across. I'm thankful to the lovely experiences I've had. And
so it's all about making it so simple. Why I made you do it is because many times we think, I'm not creative. I really need, Rageshwari, to write down the affirmation. An affirmation can be in your words, in your language, in a simple word, because it has to be the way you speak on a daily basis. Otherwise, your brain will just say, this is not you speaking. So you can say, thank you, thank you, thank you, dear universe, or Allah Ta'ala, or Why Guru, or Jesus, whoever you believe in, or just the superpower, or just thank you, universe. Thank you for a beautiful, magnificent day where I performed and I peaked in my potential. Or, so you can take it to that level. If you're affirming in the morning, then you can preempt it. So you can say, thank you, dear universe. I'm looking forward to a magnificent day. Or today I would affirm, thank you, dear universe. Today is going to be a marvelous day with Fiki Flow Ludhiana. I'm going to connect with all the wonderful ladies. We're going to spread light into each other's life. The men as well, okay? Please don't feel alienated. Our wonderful men, what would we do without them? So you can affirm and preempt it in the morning. And in the evening, it can be like, thank you, gosh, wow, all this came true. So it's just a wonderful dialogue with your inner child. It's your wonderful dialogue with the universe. And it's scientific because it sets up amazing gratitude filters. Because when we focus on gratitude, we focus on what we have, we trick our brain into thinking we have everything. And then you'll slowly get whatever it is that you desire. But if we get busy with complaining, and if we get busy about thinking this didn't happen, and which I agree, sometimes we do not get things in life perfectly the way they're meant to be. But you have to believe in the law of divine compensation. It will come to you at the right time. But if you keep thinking about that, then more of similar situations of disharmony will be attracted. What you need is harmony and happiness. So focus on what went right in the day, be grateful, and then sleep well.
That's lovely. So I did have a few more questions, which were like, if I were to write down, I have we all have aspirations for our kids. So if I were to mention for my kids and their dreams, what should be my daily affirmation?
Lovely. And affirmations in front of the mirror, Pooja, are absolutely magical. What happens in front of the mirror is when you look at yourself in front of the mirror, you actually look into your eyes, you connect with your inner child immediately. You actually start saying, automatically you'll start saying things that you craved to listen when you were young. So there were so many things that we wanted to hear, and they're locked in our memory. Perhaps well-meaning teachers said something, well-meaning parents said something that we're still consistently thinking. Someone said, oh, you eat too much. So now we're consistently battling, weight issues. Someone said, you're so lazy. So now we're working extra hard in our life because someone planted that seed of guilt to sit and watch TV or relax. So you see, that's how powerful affirmations can be. So take your children in front of the mirror and affirm with them. What is it that you wanted to affirm, Pooja? That they're performing well in school, academic?
No, they do well in life. They achieve what they dream for.
Lovely. So it can be a simple affirmation. I'm so grateful that I fulfill all my dreams. I'm so grateful that I'm happy and healthy. I'm so grateful for my lovely mama and papa. I'm so grateful that my teachers love me, my friends love me, my parents love me. So affirm it with them and let them affirm it in front of the mirror. So because you don't want to affirm for someone else. You want to affirm for yourself. We must realize we cannot change anyone. Husbands, wives, mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, we cannot change anyone. And so what we need to do with children, and we cannot change children too, we need to respect them for the way they are. Children don't listen to us, but they imitate us brilliantly. So as a family, first thing in the morning, stand in front of the mirror, super powerful, affirm. And the way you start your day, Pooja, is the way you set your day. And so first thing in the morning, please don't watch the news, don't open your phone, don't read the newspaper because you're letting the outside world come in. So here you are training your mind, training your brain. I want to really focus on my inner world. So the morning is the time. It's a really powerful time to really change the alchemy of your body. So with your children, with your parents-in-law, with your parents, whoever you live with your spouse, stand in front of the mirror and affirm together and watch what happens to the energy of your home. What happens, to your own energy, and what happens during the course of the day. You'll just be like a rocket.
That's going to be lovely. I want to confess something here.
Ji.
Every morning, I keep waiting for what is Rageshwari's message today.
Oh.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So let's move to the third question, which is a rapid fire round for you, Rageshwari.
Ji.
Only one word answers, 10 questions. So what comes to your mind when I say Amar Chitra Katha?
Oh, childhood.
Okay. What comes to your mind when I say Red Riding Hood?
Wolf.
Okay. What comes to your mind when I'm talking about fairy tales?
Imagination. Imagination.
Okay. One word for hard work.
Growth mindset.
Wow.
So I'd love to elaborate on that, but you've only allowed me one word. If I can say growth
I'm
mindset.
coming to that. Growth mindset is coming ahead. I'm going to be asking you on that also. We need a lot of advice from you. Okay. Happiness.
Way of life.
Way of life. All in the mind?
It's all in the mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, was that my next?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I totally.
No. The next one was luck.
Luck. It's around us. So it's in the mind. Let's say it's in the mind. Luck, it's in the mind. And we'll elaborate on that,
Yeah.
how I've had so many people who were told something by a Jyotishi, and as children, they were just sitting there, and then Jyotishi said something to the family, and how it came true because we programmed something into the minds of children. Because 0 to 7, especially, is a very powerful age for children. Science proves it, that they're in a meditative state. So whatever you say, even to the unborn child in your womb, or to the child till they are 7, becomes a template, is cemented in their minds. So be very mindful what you tell yourself and what you tell your children. So when we say luck, we've been conditioned, right, to say stars, theek nahi hai, planets, of course, because we're living in a very, very scientific universe. So it affects the water, even where the moon phases are concerned. It affects the water and where water. So I believe in luck, but I know that we can change it, tweak it, shape it with our mind.
Wow, that's lovely. Okay, what comes to your mind when I say dance? Ah, look at the smile.
I love it. I love to dance. You're giving me one word. I love you for this, Pooja. That's great. An author struggling to just for one word. Mindfulness.
Wow.
Children find it so difficult to be, because they're naturally mindful. So mindfulness practices are mostly got to do with breathing, focusing on your breath. And I say, what can I do in my book where I make mindfulness accessible? And children, dancing is amazing, because catch anyone who's dancing. First, adults who say, dance nahi, आधे घंटे बाद that person is dancing like he like Govinda would dance, or like Hrithik would dance. So it's amazing what dancing can do. It takes your mind away from the past, from the worries about the future. So you become mindful, you become present. So mindfulness.
Next, the second last one. So what comes to your mind when I say music?
Life.
Oh, wow. That's lovely. And the last one. What comes to your mind when I say love?
It's life as well. But love, I would just say the foundation.
Okay.
Foundation for everything, because love is the answer for any issue you may have. It's the highest frequency, it's the highest energy. We heal when we get love from our parents. We heal when we love ourselves. So it's a very powerful emotion, and sadly, it's so complicated, because when we think of love, and when I just say I love you to a man, we immediately think it has to be, it's linked to seduction or relationships. But love is actually so different than what you find in a relationship, because that's being possessive. That's a chemical reaction. That's an attraction. Love is something very, very different. It's unconditional, where you love someone. You could hurt me, but I still love you. I could hate what you did, I still love you for the way you are. So if once you get to that level, or even if you have glimpses of that in your life, it is so powerful, Pooja. It is so liberating. Yeah.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. This one is Manat's question on dream board and vision board.
I know it's her favorite chapter.
Yeah, she just mentioned that also. So we adults are in autopilot mode most of the times. And in your book, you've given us wonderful tips on how we can make dream boards and visualization work and achieve all that we aspire for from life. Can you share some tips on this platform for the benefit of all our viewers, please?
So exciting, this conversation, because I'm facing the Albert Bridge, and which was on my vision board 20 years back, 20 to 15 years back. It's so powerful. So a vision board basically is putting up pictures of what you desire. Just like how you're saying an affirmation, you put up pictures. Because when I say be mindful, be meditative, people run away. They're like, oh, tell us something more tangible. So vision boards are amazing because you can create them, and children, families can do it together. So you put up pictures of what you desire on your vision board and you see it. So it can be the first thing that you see. So if you're looking for a particular physical weight, right? You want to weigh like 50 kgs or 55 kgs, whatever it is, you will put that. So you will put a picture of a really fit person, whatever fitness means to you. It can be a person doing yoga, it can be a person doing martial arts, a person just relaxing, whatever fitness means to you. You'll put up a picture and you will say desired weight, or thank you. My body now weighs whatever your weight is. And you will write July 2020, right? It can be your harmonious deadline. Now, of course, we're in July 2020, so you can write December 2020. So it's just a very interesting deadline for you to remember, okay, I'm moving towards that. And don't have any pressure, because what happens with a vision board is when we consistently see it, it's a GPS for the brain. So the brain now starts giving you the right impulses. It sends you the right triggers. You will automatically start attracting friends who are into fitness. You will automatically start feeling, I'm not going to eat that, cake. I think I'm going to eat maybe a banana for dessert, or an apple for dessert, or a mango for dessert. So just these small, interesting nuances will start changing. It's that magical. Now, if you want to put up, your family wishes to go for an amazing holiday. Right now is the amazing time, right? Everybody is waiting to go for a holiday. So put up pictures of places that you wish to visit. You put that up and you say, thank you. I'm open to wonderful opportunities where I can holiday with my family, and write down the destinations, put up pictures of those destinations, and write, Christmas 2021, I long to be in Sri Lanka, or I long to be in India. Well, for me, India is my destination, but perhaps you'll want to be in London. So it works that way. And it's so magical how the brain perceives pictures. And let me tell you, our elders always told us that, right? That when women were pregnant, they would ask them, please see beautiful pictures. Please don't put pictures of war.
True.
Feng Shui is so connected to that. It's interesting because everything that you consistently see becomes a GPS for the brain. Now, I must tell you a very interesting thing. So, I worked with Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama was on my vision board. I always really take vision boards very seriously. When I wanted to write a book for Penguin, I was here, I'd not started my work. I put up a baby penguin, like a small toy penguin on my vision board. And I would just look at that little penguin and say, hello. So it's as simple as that, something to remind you. Why? Because the brain gets so much data, right? On a daily basis, Pooja. Like my data would be looking after the garbage, looking after Samaya's nappies. Well, now she's not wearing nappies, but her clothes, taking her taking her to the park, looking after the bills, looking after grocery, cooking, cleaning, laundry. My goal for myself, and for women, it's very important because we immediately relegate our goals, our personal goals. So how much space does that occupy in your mind? Not even 5%. Some days we actually pass an entire day without thinking, hey, I wanted to write that book. Hey, I wanted to start my mindfulness business. So a vision board is a reminder for each of you. This is my goal. This is my dream. So every day, go ahead and do your routine. That's your dharma, your karma. But your evolution is your vision board. So you consistently remind yourself, wow, I want to go there. So I will give you a very fun example too. A real example, because this will ignite the passion. So when I got married, Sudhanshu, my beloved husband, is an international law barrister, so successful. He said, but I'm doing well without vision boards. I said, great, that's wonderful. Vision board is for a lot of people who probably don't remember their goals but have a lot of goals. So I said, now you have become a QC. What would be the biggest achievement? I said, I don't know, I'm fine. Because see, you can see how people are so embarrassed to even talk about their goals. So I said, it would be amazing if you win a Nobel Peace Prize. He's like, oh, there you go. So don't be embarrassed about dreaming big. Why are we embarrassed to dream big? If we can dream, at least dream big. So he said, oh, no. I said, okay, if someone gives you a Nobel Peace Prize, will you accept it? I said, yes, I will accept it. So I've made a vision board that said Nobel Peace Prize and changing the world and everything. And I put up his picture and I put it in the study. I said, don't worry, just let it be there. Just let it be there. And this is the perfect way to enhance the relationship with the vision board, where you're not like really wanting something. You're just excited about the possibility. So it was there, and he would see it day in, day out, laugh, smile. And of course, internally, he must be saying, wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing? And would you believe it? In 3 months, we got a call from the Nobel Peace Center. This was shocking because Sudhanshu had worked in Afghanistan and Syria, and I had done a lot of work, with children rescued from terrorist training camps. So they said, could you come and be special guests and spend time with Malala and Kailashji? And here we were in 3 months at the Nobel Peace Center when we didn't know anybody there. So I was like, oh, and he was so stunned. So that's how vision boards work. Now, many people will say, does that mean I get whatever is on the vision board? Perhaps you will. But now Sudhanshu is not concerned about getting the Nobel Peace Prize. He is doing work and attracting work towards the Nobel Peace Prize. So it's all about that, right? It's about aligning your path that, hey, dear universe, guide me, give me the right GPS so that I get work connected with my goals. So that's how it works.
So beautiful, lovely. Okay, my next question, that was awesome. Okay, the next question is about positive words and growth mindset. So, dear Rageshwari, in your book, you've mentioned some amazing tips on how we can, with creativity, sugarcoat a no.
Yes. So what I mean is, when Panchatantra,
I need a solution to this problem that we all teenage mothers face. So here we have when it comes to teenagers, the ordeal is very different. When late night parties, stayovers, how do we handle this when we have to say no? Or we cannot say a yes here. We have to say a no. How do we handle it?
So the entire essence of that chapter is, I'm not saying don't say the word no. So basically, I'm not asking you that, listen, you just cannot say no in your life. But I'm saying that if you wish to say the word no, don't use the word, use an explanation. Because science says when we start a sentence with the word no, that no, the brain immediately shuts down motivation centers. Yes. So it immediately triggers a fear response. So it will, propel us towards safety strategies. So children will or a spouse or anyone, when you start with something that says a no, you will have a response like either they will dominate, they will be aggressive, or they will run away or be submissive. So what you need to do is have a free-flowing conversation, hear them, and don't be in a rush to say no. Where 0 to 7 is concerned, we don't want to even use the word no, because science says, and Chanakya Niti says that, and Panchatantra says that during that age, children, toddlers, their brain is having 100 neural pathways per second. So at that point, they're forming an opinion of the world. So we want to teach them that the world is filled with possibilities. So we want to definitely, of course, guide them. If we, if they're going to go towards danger, we will scream out a no, but be mindful. How many times? Because most of the times we are almost on an autopilot when we say no. No, will I dance? No. Will you go into the rain? No. I want an ice cream? No. Because parents just want to say a no and say, Bhagwan, I'm so tired. You jao, no bol diya maine. Main thak gayi hu. So what we need to do is, also this will help us. We say no to so many things that we desire, isn't it, Pooja?
Yeah.
So we need to let go of the word no. And yes, I understand that you don't want to allow them. So keep that in mind and say that beautifully. Have a proper communication. So many a times when, give them a heads up. Because children, like I said, do not listen to us, but they imitate us beautifully. So many a times I'm running errands all by myself with Samaya and I have to go into a toy shop. I'm like, oh my God, because it's someone's birthday. I'm like, oh my God. So what I do is I give her a heads up and I say, okay, Samaya, we're going into a toy shop because it is Isabella's birthday. We're going to take toys for Isabella. But you can see all the toys, enjoy all the toys, but you will write it in your wish list. Is that a deal? And then I look at her in the eyes and I say, is that a deal? Do you promise me? And then she says, okay, deal. Because it's easy for her to say deal outside the toy shop. Now, when she goes into the toy shop, I must be calm because my anger and my anxiety is not going to help her. So if she gets anxious when I say, no, we have a deal, you will look at all the toys. No worries, you can play with the toys, but you will write down about this toy in your wish list and then stick to it. Because you know why children become rigid, Pooja? Is because we give in. We say, no, 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 no. And then we say, acha, 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 theek hai. So children say, we consistently want something. Lage raho, wo haan bolenge. So that's how we turn children and people into, rigid beings. Because we say, lage raho, ye maan jayenge. So where teenagers are concerned, don't be in a rush to correct them, be in a rush to connect with them.
Yeah.
And where teenagers are concerned, now they are really, really in a place where they're trying to find out about themselves, they're trying to seek their identity, they're out in the world. So at this point, nurture them, accept them for the way they are, and then value the model. So for example, be the model that you want them, to emulate or be at home. So if you want them to be kind, are they seeing parents, grandparents, and the environment be kind? And when I mean be kind, we have to be kind with everybody without conditions. The staff, the chauffeur, someone who jumps the signal, someone who's been rude to you, you're going to be kind. And so that's how the child will learn boundaries. And where late nights are concerned, well, each family has a different rule or regulation. So everybody will have a different reason. But the thing is that as long as your strategy is filled with love and not in a hurry to say no, you say, we understand, perhaps it's a 16th birthday or 18th birthday of a friend, so allow them some time and perhaps pick them up, or you'll have to meet midway. This is my approach. So
Thank you so much.
I have a niece who's a teenager, but I'll answer it better when Samaya grows up and becomes a teenager. But with all the teenagers I deal with, where clients are concerned, as clients are concerned, I would just say that they're all longing for a connection and not being corrected. And also they're living in a very different world than we grew up in. So they need all the more nurturing, all the more acceptance for the way they are.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. So connection is the word.
Connection, connect with them. Where we are, parents are, coming from a place of fear. That's why mindfulness is so powerful. We're constantly thinking, oh, ye bigad jayega. Arey, Bhagwan isne padhai nahi ki, kya karega zindagi mein? Remind yourself, hello, Einstein was not considered a scholar in school. He was a scholar. He was the greatest, scientist we ever know. So be positive, affirm, like I said, get back to affirmations, get back to gratitude journals, write, think about what you desire. So say it to the child that this is what would make you happy. This is what the home is all about. It gives us the stress that, when you're out there and you don't pick up a call or you don't connect, please go party with your friends, but can you please come back? Because so when you change the way you speak, when you're not in a rush to be, listened to, but you're in a rush to listen, that will change the dynamics of the conversation. And,
So
and
do you want us to respond and not react?
well, I would say just be natural, respond for sure. Yes, not react. And with that, the difference is when we react out of being defensive, that you have to listen to me. While when you're having a free flowing conversation with a friend, then it's completely different. While we are, brought up with discipline as well, right? Most of us. And so that's why we think that disciplining an obedient child is something that makes us very happy, but it doesn't
We're good
work in the long
parents.
it doesn't work it doesn't work in the long run, because that's why most of the teenagers feel alienated with their parents, because now they have the freedom and they say, listen, you've disciplined me too much, I'm going to move away. And that's the problem with marriages, that's the problem even in offices. When we consistently cause people guilt or shame, or correct them or discipline them, or consistently tell them, you're so bad, you're not listening to me, when will you improve, you don't listen to your parents, you don't listen to your wife, or you don't listen to your husband, whatever it is, we consistently say that, we're actually blocking all the connections of communication, because the person just wants to now move away. Hello.
Okay. I have another question, the last one. How to propel personal passion? Give us an insight into oxygen mask theory, please.
This is so important for parents, and I'm sure for anyone for that matter, even people who are single suddenly don't remember to prioritize themselves. So again, childhood patterns, we've been brought up to consistently say, be kind, be loving, look at others' wishes. And in our subcontinent, in India, all the more, सबसे पहले उन्हें खाना दो, सबसे पहले ये करो. अब बच्चों को तो हम क्या क्या बहुत interesting चीजें बोलते हैं. So especially, and we women have seen our mothers relegate themselves completely, right? They are the ones who are making the roti, they're feeding everybody, they just watch everybody eating. And interestingly, I realized that in my chapter, which I've written, God, that I'd become like my mother. Even though I had a very forward thinking British husband who was like, why is she standing in the kitchen and making roti when she can just sit with me? I said, no. This made me think I was a better wife. This made me think that, I'm amazing, that I'm making the paranthas and they're sitting and eating. When it was interesting that I said, gosh, we are consistently telling in the book, right? Penguin and I consistently saying in our book that the childhood is the template of your adult life. So what is Samaya going to turn into? Samaya is definitely going to become exactly like me. Someone who's not prioritizing herself, someone who's just busy cooking, cleaning, doing laundry. And that helped me change. So mothers and fathers, if you want your children to become exactly like you, so if you're happy with the way, you're handling your life, then fine, go ahead. But so because prioritizing oneself instantly makes parents feel, no, it's okay. I'll just do away with my holiday. I'll do away with my, trip to the salon. I'll do away, with this lovely evening I've planned with my family, with my friends, because of my family. So if I just say prioritize yourself, many parents don't accept that. But when I say, listen, if you don't prioritize yourself, you will bring up your children to be exactly like you. So oxygen mask theory basically is, you remember the theory when you're in the aircraft, they say, try to, attend to your needs first, because that's when you'll be motivated, happier, more energized, and more balanced in your approach, because you're healed, you're happy, you're like, well fed mentally, emotionally. That's why I love the Gurudwaras, because they say, Pehle aap khana khaएं, pehle aap langar khaएं. Then you'll be able to pray with all the shanti, with all the peace. So it's all about that in your life. And women must do that all the more. What are your dreams? What are your desires? Spend time meditating, affirming, spend time on your vision board, spend time with your friends, a positive influence, self-care, as they say, think of a hobby, hug yourself, release oxytocin. So just simple things. And then the vision board will remind you that this is my greater goal in my life. And if this is not reason enough, like I said, then you want your children to also be, people who prioritize their goals, prioritize themselves. And that's when, you'll never ever have mental health issues or problems with not understanding your emotions, because you've spent time with yourself. You value yourself. You're nurturing, your inner child.
That's so lovely. Thank you so much for that. That's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing these wonderful nuggets of wisdom with us, Rageshwari. And we feel truly blessed to have you with us. Let's move to the question answer round now. There are so many members who are so excited to ask you such lovely questions. Here I would like to invite Shweta Jindal, the editor of Flow Ludhiana, to join us. Welcome, Shweta.
Hi, Shweta.
Thank you, Pooja. Hi, Rageshwari.
Okay, moving ahead with our first question. Reena Agarwal, the past chairperson, 2018-19, would like to ask you a question. And over to you, Reena Di.
Hi, Reena.
Yeah, hi, greetings, Rageshwari, and welcome to Flow Ludhiana. Your presence is honor for us. To see you on screen is a treat to the eyes. So much learning and positivity today. Affirmations, vision board, growth mindset, prioritizing yourself. That was really insightful. So my question, music is therapeutic and music is magical. Rageshwari, please talk about your experience with Mozart's Piano Sonata No. 1.
Wow. Yes. So in the book I have a chapter on music, and I'm saying that it's such a beautiful mindfulness practice for families to partake in. And I've talked about music nostalgia. So just before, when we were talking, Manat, kindly played my song, Rishaba, and it immediately rushed back so many memories. I was emotional. I was thinking about the time in my life. I was thinking, wow, it was such a big chart topper, but I was such a teenager, it didn't even matter. So all these emotions rushed back. So I've talked about, music nostalgia and how we can use it to program the minds of children. So, there's an amazing song that I consistently play, for Samaya to fall asleep, or now for Samaya to clean her room, or, for her to feel motivated. So it's interesting that we consistently play that song. The child then connects and makes these amazing neural pathways that whenever they hear that song, they'll immediately get into the activity. So talking about the Mozart Sonata No. 11, I absolutely love it. And I started reading about the Mozart phenomena, where they said that the Mozart symphonies have such amazing chord progressions that they actually calm you. They make you happier. They make you feel more peaceful. So I was hearing the Mozart Sonata 11 at all times when I was pregnant. All times, just morning, day, and even when Samaya was a breech baby, as you'll read in the book, and it was interesting that she was also born to, the amazing Mozart Sonata. And I would play that every time it was bedtime for her. And Samaya would just really sleep like a llama baby. So, that's my lovely connect with the Mozart Sonata. And even now, when during the day, if I ever play it, Samaya immediately looks at me and says, Mama, is it Nini time? Because, the moment she immediately gets like, oh my God, I think it's Nini time. So that's how music connections can be made. That's how music nostalgia can be brought into our lives. And that was all about the Mozart Sonata, which is just a beautiful melody. But, you can use any melody that you like, any chant, any zikr, any hymn, anything that attracts you and brings solace to your soul.
Thank you, Rageshwari. Thank you, Reena. Now let me call upon Ankita Gupta, our secretary, Fiki Flow. She will ask her question to you, Rageshwari.
Hi, Rageshwari. A very good evening and a very, very warm welcome to Flow Ludhiana. It's been an absolute privilege to hear you since some time today. I wish I could go on, but you just radiate so much of warmth, so much of love. In fact, your background right now kind of resonates with the kind of state of mind which I'm roaming around in right now. And I'm sure a lot of girls will agree with me. I just wanted to ask you a question. I have a pre-teen and a pre-adult at home. The hormones are always raging high. in my home. So what I'd like to know is what should be the checklist for probably moms like me who want to ensure that they turn out as good individuals. As you've mentioned, in fact, I also had the privilege of reading your book some time back, and you mentioned that it reinstilled the faith in me that happy moms make happy children. But besides the affirmations and besides being happy, what should be a quick checklist for moms like me so that they turn out happy individuals?
How sweet. Firstly, you're brilliant, your energy is brilliant, and we consistently need to tell ourselves that so that children see that. Because when moms are consistently downplaying and saying, God, I'm so tired, I'm so bad, I'm such a stupid mom, right? Many people say that, many mothers say that. Children are very intelligent. Subliminally, they catch that and then they will say it back to you. So at all times, project yourself in your true worth. The truth is that you're wonderful the way you are. Now, when we're consistently putting all the focus on happy, remember, we don't want children to just be happy. Eventually, of course, the entire essence of building a happy family is very different than just being happy. Because being happy, they can be sitting on the couch and watching Peppa Pig all day or watching TV. They'll be happy. We'll also be happy. That's not evolution. Actual happiness is when we conquer goals. Actual happiness is when we rise from failures. Actual happiness is when we actually thrive or conquer any fears that we have. So resilience is the key. So at all times, put some cute challenges in front of them, and inspire them to face those challenges, to conquer those fears. That builds resilience, because we just want their self-worth to be amazing. Give them all the attention, all the love that you can, and then help them be strong. Help them love their failures, honor their mistakes, because that makes the brain grow, and they will turn out just fine. Because today, all the definitions, as you know, have changed. We really don't know what makes people successful, especially what the schools are saying is not true.
Absolutely.
Because all the successful people, and especially, I can say it from my experience with all the clients I have, are all super successful people according to the world's definition.
The world's.
So they're going to be just fine because you look fabulous. So you have to, come from that place. I'm fine. They will be fine. They will make an amazing new path, for themselves. If this hasn't given you motivation enough, Einstein, for that matter, could not even speak till the age of 4. He never had friends. According to the schools, he was just a non-starter. His parents just knew that he will shine at his own time.
Yeah.
So the checklist for all parents is to reparent yourself. That's it. Just model the behavior that you wish your children to
have.
Be the change that you wish to see in your family. Speak positive words, raise the frequency in your home. And if you wish your child to probably work hard, instead of why are you not working hard, let's say, hey, what can we do to get you motivated? What can we do together? Why is it? Let us know. Because our education system is so competitive and so outcome driven. Most of us don't thrive in
teach them to fail, I think. You have to teach them to fail now. It's more important.
Yes. And for example, so many actors tell me, whenever we give a screen test, we're very bad. But when we get the movie, we're brilliant. So you see, being judged at all times doesn't make people thrive. So they're going to be just fine. So don't worry about the happiness. Just teach them, hey, how can we rise from failure? How can we conquer our fears? That's true happiness, because children feel, hey, Mama, I did it. Mama, did you see? Did you see how I climbed that slide? Or Mama, did you see? So on a daily basis, do 3 things that make you feel brave, like call someone who you're nervous about, make a project report and go out there and, make a presentation with people. Do anything that says, wow, I did something interesting today.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for insight. Thanks, Rageshwari. Pleasure talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Rageshwari. And thank you, Ankita. I now request Ms. Neha Agarwal to kindly present her question.
Hi, Neha.
Neha Agarwal to kindly present her question. Is she here with us?
Am I audible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Rageshwari.
Hi,
It's an
Neha.
absolute
You're
honor, and it's like a fan moment for me right now. Been following you since years now, so thank you very much for this opportunity. My question to you today is that comparisons create mess in our lives, and on the other hand, another school of thought says that comparison is important or required to improve. So, what is your take on comparisons?
So, we're compared right from the very beginning. I mean, children, it's programmed into our minds. So when we consistently compare children, and I'm talking about children because we've all been children, and that's why we now get jealous or we don't celebrate someone's success, is because we were not taught that we are perfect the way we are. So that's the first downfall of comparison. The second downfall when we compare someone is when we actually bring the person's self-worth completely at a low. So if we want children or humans, our adults, to consistently thrive, completely thrive in the way they are, we need to stop comparisons. And, when we look at comparisons, even when we grow up, what is it that actually motivates us? Today, during the lockdown, why is it that people suddenly feel so demotivated, scared? It's because we've never been taught to feel motivated intrinsically. Everything was to appeal to the outside world, for the awards, for the rewards, study for the exams, perform well, be kind for the outsiders. Don't be kind to yourself, just be kind to others. So be fit so that you can fit into the genes. Don't be fit because you need to really be strong. So you see, everything that comparison tells us is really actually taking away from the true depth of growth, because true evolution and true growth has to be intrinsic. If you cannot motivate a person internally, they will collapse at one time or the other in their life. Because if improvement is all about the other person, there will be so many people who are going to do better than you, according to the worldly standards. So we need to tell them that, hey, it's your amazing journey, it's your evolution. What is it that you desire? You are unique. So, for example, if I want Neha to thrive as a businesswoman, I'm going to say, Neha, what is it that motivates you? What will nurture your soul? So the only comparison that should be allowed should be comparison with your past experience. Hey, you worked hard. Yesterday you worked very hard. Last week you were very motivated. What happened today, my love? So it should be that, so that I consistently honor you, so that I consistently honor the inner child in you. So otherwise, one day or the other, the child's motivation will collapse.
Thank you. Thank you, Rageshwari. Let me call upon Divya Munjal, our FICCI Flow member, who would like to ask the next question to you.
Sure.
Thank you, Shweta. Hi, Rageshwari.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for this amazing session. And I love the way you explained the affirmation with family in front of the mirror. And I'm sure I'm going to start doing that from tomorrow itself with my son. Yeah. So my question is, in your book, you have mentioned reading information and reading for pleasure. So can you just elucidate this with examples?
Sure. So, I've talked about reading with children, and I've, emphasized a lot that when we read a storybook to our babies, to our children, we form a habit of being book lovers. And when we do that, when we read for our children, they actually start imagining. And the problem is many parents say, but I don't want to read, because does it really make a difference? And they should read on their own. But the thing is, when children start really learning how to read on their own, by 6 or 7 or 8, when they're fully, completely ready to read, they actually get bogged down with a lot of academic pressure, because that's going on, to grow. So they have a lot to read, which is school related. So the entire enjoyment of just reading for pleasure dwindles away. So that is the time that we need to really teach them that, reading for pleasure is important. In the same way, where adults are concerned, like I'm, in the mindfulness business, so of course, reading about mindfulness is pleasure for me anyways. But for example, my barrister husband, he has to read for work, which has got to do with his cases. He has to read where his work is concerned as to current news, current global news. He has to read. That is his work. But he loves to read for pleasure. It could be a cooking book. It could be a mindfulness book for him. It could be a romantic, or it could be a history book. So in the same way, women, probably doing jobs as designers, or, in a corporate office, or business women. So anything that you read connected to your work will always be work-related reading. But you could perhaps read a romantic novel or a book about lovely travels. So that becomes reading for pleasure. So don't mix the two, because it has a very different vibe, a very different impulse, and changes the alchemy in your body differently.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rageshwari. We have with us Miss Aman Sandhu, who heads our social welfare arm, Abhiman. She would like to ask you a question. Over to you, Aman.
Yeah. Hi, Rageshwari. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to you. There are so many takeaways from today's webinar, but I would really like to compliment you for being so soft and gentle. And I'm sure that's a part of your personality as well, because it shows in the way you speak.
Thank you.
Well, my question to you is that, do you think that this COVID-19 has led many more people to the realization of the mindfulness part?
Absolutely. I hope so. I hope so. Because, many people have told me we're very stressed now during COVID times. And I said, well, if you really rewind and go back to the days before COVID, we were still stressed. People were always worried about the past. People were always worried about the future as well. So constant guilt or constant anxiety was a part of their life. But during this situation, there's something that is a level up, because it's no more just my problem. We all are in the same boat, probably facing a little different storms, but we all are in the same boat. And it's a leveler, because this time, it's not about the rich or the poor. It's not about the successful and not the successful. It can affect anyone. So it's sort of, helped us sort of tweak our thinking, that what is it that actually truly matters? It's just love, and it's all about motivation, and it's all about respecting one another. And it also is a reminder for us that who are we valuing and who are we celebrating? I mean, the people who really need to be valued at all times are doctors, our carers, our police, our teachers, our elders. Do they even get salaries we can celebrate? So that is extremely important for us to really tweak and rethink about these things. And I seriously hope, because of course we will combat this situation and meet up post-pandemic, but it's very important for us to not move post-pandemic without learning these lessons, without saying, listen, we have to take salaries of these particular people seriously. We need to celebrate them much more than heroes and heroines or celebrities. These are the real heroes and heroines. So, that then sends amazing messages into the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, sweetie.
Thank you, Rageshwari. Thank you, Aman.
Cute.
Now let me call upon Nandita.
Darling. So sweet. Like, why is my mom talking to the computer? I know. Samaya does that. Why, Mama, why do you keep talking to this laptop? I said, no, I do see people through it. And then she was like, then she didn't leave.
He wants to say hi to you. Say hi.
Hi. What is your name?
Tell your name.
Arman.
What a lovely name. Arman. Do you know what it means?
Yes.
What does it mean?
Wish.
Wow. So may all your wishes come true, and may you always have positive wishes.
Thank you.
Much love, Arman.
Thank you. Now let me call upon Nandita Bhaskar, our past chairperson, who would like to ask the next question to you.
Hi.
Hi, Rageshwari. It's Nandita
Hello.
here. I'm at the fag end of the session, and I would just like to tell you that whatever you spoke was so motivating and inspiring. Thank you for that. And very quickly, I like to ask my question, which is that you did mention about vision boards for setting our long-term goals.
Yes.
However, what according to you can be a quick fix or a fuss-free fix to tackle anxiety? Like all of us face anxiety on a day-to-day basis, right? So what according to you can be a really easy fuss-free method for us to tackle anxiety, like in a go, instead of waiting for it for a
So first thing, like I said, in the mornings, the way the way you start your day is the way you set your day. And people, who feel anxious, have panic attacks, or even depression for that matter, don't know why they're waking up with that feeling. So a quick fix is when you wake up in the morning, focus on all your 5 senses. So see something that makes you happy. It could be a family photograph, or you could visualize, a beach, or whatever makes you happy. Hear something that makes you happy. So wake up with a chant, or wake up with a hymn, or wake up or a zikr, whatever it is. Hear something that immediately uplifts your spirits. Smell something that makes you happy. So it can be your spouse, your partner, your lover, or your children, or flowers, or yourself, some perfume, whatever. And taste something that makes you feel uplifted. So you can visualize all this. You can taste pani puri, you can taste whatever it is in your mind. And it's amazing how the saliva glands work. Touch something that uplifts you. It can be velvet, or you just visualize, just giving yourself a cuddle, release oxytocin. You raise awareness where all your 5 senses are concerned, and just observe what happens to you mentally. Now, this is the first thing in the morning. So you just sort of rebooted your system. Now, during the course of the day, anytime you feel anxious, it could be an affirmation. Go into the balcony, look at the sky. I know if if you have trees around, trees are very, very harmonious and nurturing to look at, because we are subliminally hardwired to be attracted and to seek solace from nature because of our history as cavemen. So just look at the sky, and it immediately takes away your pressure and anxiety. Drink water. Water is therapeutic. Look at the research on water. It immediately shifts the alchemy of your body. Just remember, sit down, drink water. Brain hacks. There are so many amazing. If you can go onto my Instagram, you will see a lot of brain hacks. So a little bit of exercise, jumping jacks. It is so powerful. Give me 10 jumping jacks and you will say, God, I'm feeling much better. Sit down, sip water, and affirm. All is well. All is well. Keep saying that in your mind, all is well. So this is a quick fix.
Right. Thanks. That answers my question. Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandita. Thank you, Rageshwari. Up next, we have Smriti Thapar, our Literary Circle member, who would like to ask her next question.
Sure.
Hi, Rageshwari. It's been an absolute pleasure being a part of this talk. You have given us so much knowledge, affirmation, vision boards, and so much about children. We are all mothers here, most of us. So my question is related to children. You curate the Children Literature Festival in London.
That's right.
Can you tell us more about that, please? Thank you.
So this is with a wonderful company, Author in Me, which is headed by Monica Sood and Ekta Bajaj. And they have a lovely company, and they wanted to start a literary festival. So they asked me to, join hands with them. And basically, we believe that every person has a story to share, and especially children, and we must nurture and encourage them to write their own stories. So all the mothers out there who have children, or if you have nieces and nephews, the younger they are, the better, because they have so many stories. But because we don't encourage them, they then start retaining the stories just within. Just like we adults, we just stop saying stories. So basically, the literary festival is all about encouraging children and the relationship they have with books, the relationship they have with writing, the relationship they have with imagination. So we'll have a whole lot of authors who are children, of course, adult authors as well who write for children. And we couldn't, have the festival. It was supposed to launch this June, but because of the situation globally, and now we are postponing it. But that's what it's going to be. And I'm sure that FICCI Flow Ludhiana will be absolutely a part of our team. We look forward to that.
Thank you so much. I am a mother, and my daughter has also co-authored a book with a friend of hers, a best friend. Her best friend has done her artwork, and Anushka has written my daughter. So I'm sure I would love her to be a part of this festival if things are online or how.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rageshwari. Thank you, Smriti, for your question. We have with us, now may I request Gagan, an avid reader from the Ficky Flow Literary Circle, to kindly put forth her question.
Hi, audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, a very good evening. This is Luma and everyone present here today. So it has been an edifying experience listening to you, and salute to your journey. Yes, and enriching experience reading your book. The question for you is, as a teenager mother, it's kind of difficult to tackle their anger issues sometimes. How to help them tackle their own anger issues of teen kids?
Wow. So in many ways, even though I learned it the hard way because I could not express my anger and, and then of course I had my facial paralysis for a whole lot of reasons connected, with anger and with thoughts of negativity. I think anger is not a bad emotion if it's channeled the right way. And anger is basically also love that sort of lost its path. So in many ways, if depression is an inward expression of pain, anger is an outward expression of pain. So at all times, let them express that, as long as you observe that nobody in the family is modeling that. So adults, like I consistently say, that children don't listen to us, but they definitely imitate us. And also, are they watching a whole lot of violent films? All our teenagers are. So yes, they get these interesting messages from so many all corners, but how can we help them tackle it? We need to just ask them that, what is it that you're trying to communicate with me? And if you just say it with love and respect, I can understand it even better. I can help support you even better. So at any given time, not just your children, be it a colleague, be it a spouse, the moment you see their decibels raise, you get calmer. And what happens is, as Einstein said, match the frequency of what you desire. So now when you become calm, the person who's so angry will either move into another room or your perception will change. So let them express it, embrace it, accept it, and then have this conversation. And I think I can understand you better if you say it's soft. Say it's
Thank you, dear.
Thank you, Rageshwari. Thank you, Gagan. Now let me call upon Namrata Singhania. She would like to ask her next question. She's also a Literary Circle member.
Hi, Rageshwari.
Hey.
It was wonderful listening to you, and we feel so elated, taken to a different world. As you just spoke about anger, that is also a form of expression. So just tell me what triggers anxiety or sadness and anger in us, and give us some tips or brain hacks to do away with these.
Sure. It's always got to do with, guilt about something that you could not do, the kind of, pressures put by society, the kind of, benchmarks put by society, put by peers. So going back to the previous question as well, that, teenagers have that anger because they're consistently, bombarded with how they should be. And at that point, at that sensitive age, when they're actually trying to grapple with how, what their own authentic self is. So at all times, first connect with your inner self and let go of guilt and shame. I've explained that in detail in one of the episodes on Mindful Mondays with Fit Club, which is all about guilt and shame. So guilt and shame in a big way. And research proves that each of us has been through guilt and shame. But because we do not know how to talk about it, we suppress it. And one of the ways to actually combat it, or how people want to escape it, by being dominated, by being aggressive. So when we cause a child, a teenager, or a spouse, or a colleague shame, sometimes they can combat it with the fight mode, which is by being dominating, which is by being aggressive. And perhaps then when you catch them on another day, they're absolutely so scared and defensive that you've caused them that pain, that they will always be angry. And now they're starting to be angry, and that has become a modus operandi in their life. So where if you know, it's a deep web of emotions. So I would say in simple terms, let go of the past, let go, forgive everyone who's hurt you, forgive yourself if you've caused anyone pain, ask for forgiveness. And if they take their time to forgive, no problem, move on. Today is a new day. And now let go of anxiety where the future is concerned. And that's when you'll see that your anger is slowly calming down. You're starting to come to terms with life. You're absolutely okay. You're embracing the situation with grace. You're surrendering, because if things cannot be helped, you do not want to stress on them, but you want to motivate yourself on a positive path. So hoping that helps. I can't hear you.
Thank you, Namrata ji. Thank you, Rageshwari. I'm so
Thank
grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to you, Rageshwari, for the patience that you've had with us. We have just few more questions left. This one is coming from Jaya. Jaya Singh, she's the advisor with the Sri Ram Universal School, and she would like to ask you a question. Over to you, Jaya.
Hi, Jaya.
Unmute yourself. You have to be loud.
I think it's hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Rageshwari. It was absolutely wonderful, amazing listening to you. In fact, I think what you were talking about resonates with each one of us here. And I think you've given us enough material to think about it and ponder and probably apply it, because you emoted so beautifully with your words. So thank you so much for all the input into our DNAs that you've done today. Can I, wanted to ask you that we're in a crisis situation world over, and it's to a point of being toxic, and there's this absolutely fear of losing something, someone, maybe the fear of the unknown. So these negative thoughts are always plaguing, I think, all of us. So what's the best way to shut out this negative chatter?
The negative chatter. So we cannot change our negative thinking, but with mindfulness and with meditation and just being aware, we can actually steer our mind towards a positive thought. So be more aware. Oh, I'm thinking negatively. No, this is not my reality. I'm going to change the way I think. So you'll immediately think about and affirm, like I was saying. So even if the doctor was saying something negative to me, I immediately said, this is not my reality. I'm going to think that I'm fine. I'm having a healthy and happy baby. In the same way, mental diet. Don't get obsessed with the news. Don't talk about the numbers of people who are succumbing to the virus. If you wish to talk about it, talk about the people who are recovering. Like, let me tell you about this 100-year-old aunt and Sarah Kaleem, who heads the Oxford Somerville. And it's interesting that her grandmother's 100 years old and she tested COVID positive. But would you believe it? She's totally asymptomatic. She's eating, sleeping, dancing, walking, talking. So you see, that's how you motivate each other, by passing positive news. If you want to be healthy, we're so concerned about our physical diet. Our mental diet is very important. That means, what are we seeing on a daily basis? What are we hearing? What are we speaking? So what are we contributing into the energy field, into our home? Excuse me. So that's very, very powerful, where, stress is concerned, to really combat stress, and hoping that helps.
Thank you so much. Yes, we will try and be more mindful to where our brain leads us, and probably, look more within us and less outside, because yes, it is a crisis which we all have to deal with.
And when we were talking about fear, you talked about the word fear, and I'm glad that, it came to my mind that science proves that there's only one emotion that can combat fear, and it's gratitude. How? So for example, my parents are in Mumbai, and so fearful thoughts immediately come up, and I immediately say, no, that's not the reality. Dear universe, I'm so grateful that they're healthy and happy right now. So when you're constantly worried about your children or your spouse, you say, no. The moment the negative thought comes, no, that's not my reality. Thank you to universe that my husband and my children are all healthy and happy. Thank you to universe that I'm so healthy and happy today. So you bring your mind consistently with gratitude back to your current reality. And so, the Brené Brown has done immense research on fear. And there's one emotion that immediately shifts your perspective, and that is gratitude.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ji. Thank you, Rageshwari. Just last 2 questions before we wind up. So next question, let me call upon Sanam Mehra, our Flow Ludhiana vertical head, Swabhiman. Swabhiman's head. She would like to ask a question to you, Rageshwari.
Hi, greetings, dear Rageshwari. Thank you for such a wonderful session on mindful parenting. My question to you is, which chapter from your book was the toughest for you to write?
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for your question. The chapter which was the toughest, when I was writing it, when Penguin and my lovely editor Roshni and me were discussing it, was the chapter on affirmations, because I've talked about, my first heartbreak in that chapter. And that's the time when, I chanced upon affirmations, and I realized what was my inner dialogue. So it's so important to clear up your inner dialogue. So I had to be really honest, but I also wanted to be respectful of the gentleman. So I've not named him, just respecting his privacy, but I've talked about how the relationship started and how it ended and what it did to me, and why we take relationships so seriously, and why we become so negative, and why we become so obsessed about bringing that person down. And I was so busy in that to prove myself right. So, and that's a very human trait, that we want to be accepted. Right? We want to be proven right. So we call everybody and we consistently say, he did this and he did that. See, I'm absolutely right. He did this and he didn't. See, I was. So, and then we go in from one relationship to the other, and how I had to tell myself, because we want to prove, right, that, see, I'm good. I've got a new boyfriend now. So so it's so interesting that I had to say, no, I'm not going to jump into another relationship. I want to clear my path. I want to go into healing. It was difficult to affirm, and then they say that you must bless the person who's broken your heart. I was like, what? No, I don't bless that person. But then the first 3 days, your brain and your heart will say, no, I don't want to bless the person. But then, like a robot, you just keep blessing, you just bless. And then the 4th day, there's a shift. There's a shift, and you realize, my goodness, this is true, because nobody starts a relationship thinking that I'm going to hurt you.
Yes.
We are all children masquerading as adults. It's very important to remember that. So relationships are here to teach us amazing lessons. So be thankful for the good times, and then be thankful for the bad, because only they teach you lessons. The good you don't remember. So that was the toughest chapter to write. I wanted it to be loving. I wanted it to be honest. And I wanted it to be really raw as well.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Rageshwari.
Thank you, Rageshwari. Thank you, Sanamdi. The last one, thank you so much for your patience, Rageshwari. The last question is coming from Vasudha. She would like to ask you a question.
Sure, Vasudha.
Yeah, hi Rageshwari. I remember you from Main Khiladi Tu Nari, the fan and the Lal Dupatta girl, Lal Dupatte Wali Tera Naam To Bata. So, I had to read your book to see how that teenager has actually grown up to be such a wise and mature woman. In your book, you have written that emotional parents have emotional kids. So we have been talking about emotional moms and happy moms here. So how to deal with the arguments happening in the couples? Because in Indian families, obviously, we live with our in-laws, and there are so many ups and downs and so many arguments and so many roller coaster of happiness and frustration. So how to deal with that?
Yes, we are such an emotional subcontinent as well. But then let's take pride in that. That's good, because we also, bring each other together. We are expressive with our emotions. What I grasp from the question is where arguments are concerned. So if we are a couple that have healthy arguments, with our parents, parents-in-law, with our spouse, healthy arguments where we reach an amicable discussion, an amicable end where we understand, okay, you're right, fine, I'm proven wrong, no problem, chaliye khana khate hain. That is very good for children to observe because they realize that it's not always important for my opinion to be right. This is how we must talk about opinions, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're not, and it's perfectly fine. But if we are a couple that are very caustic, where we break plates, we become personal, and we walk out of a fight and we say, I'm not going to see your face again. If we are that kind, then children think this is the way we need to fight. This is the way we need to put our point across. So what happens is that becomes the template. And then when they grow up, they will attract friendships with similar dialogues, similar expressions. They will attract partnerships, personal partnerships with similar dialogues. They will have all these kind of exchanges, and then take these kind of exchanges even into their professional domain. So because they will understand that I have no power if I don't raise my voice. I don't have power if I don't bring the other person down. So it's very important for us to be mindful that, you know, is it important for my ego to be proven right, or is it important for me to have a subtle, mindful, simple discussion? Because why should we have ego with our family when we've chosen to be together? But it's so interesting, right? That's why coping mechanisms in a family, in an intimate relationship come up. We immediately mirror the kind of relationship we had when we were children. So that's why the childhood, you'll see mirror in our intimate relationships. Either we're very possessive with our partners, or either we're submissive, or either we're scared, or either we are very, very, liberated. It will have matching frequencies of what relationships or what dynamics we shared with our well-meaning parents. So if that answers your question, that it's all about just letting ego go away and have wonderful, fun discussions, that's absolutely fine for children to be, privy to and have a look at.
Thank you, Rageshwari. That was really helpful. And I would like to get a peep of all those books behind you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sure. There's more ask and I shall receive. Then there's, books about brain hacks, and Dr. Shashi Tharoor's, all of his books, for sure. Amish Tripathi's books, and a lot of mindfulness books. So Chimp Paradox is another lovely book, for us to understand how the mind and how the brain works, by Dr. Steve Jobs. Yeah, Dr. Steve.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Vasudha. Thank you so much, Rageshwari. And thank you so much for an insightful session. And over to you, Shweta. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rageshwari. Thank you, everyone, for all your questions. Now, may I quickly call upon Monica so that she can express a vote of thanks.
We've extended way beyond our time.
Yes.
You're magic. You're magical. Your magic just works, Rageshwari. It's just amazing.
The time just flew. We didn't get to know.
It's always a give and take, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Monica, over to you, please.
I guess a slight glitch with Monica's, I think, computer. She's just trying to fix it. I think she's done.
That means more time with Rageshwari. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shweta. A very good evening, everyone. What an insightful session it has been. Today's session was truly an eye-opener. Thank you, Rageshwari, for the wonderful tips to strengthen and enrich our inner world. We would like to present you with a green certificate. The idea behind the green certificate is that in Flow, we believe in creating permanent, lasting memories. Hence, we plant a tree in the name of our esteemed guest of honor, and this certificate is a testimony to it. I would like to request the IT team to kindly show the green certificate to Rageshwari.
Thank you. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. Thank you. That's amazing.
Thank you, IT team. Pooja, you were a wonderful moderator and curated the interaction so intuitively. We would like to present you with a green certificate as well.
I would request the IT team to present the green certificate to Pooja. Thank you, IT team. I would thank you, Pallavi, for opening the event so beautifully. I'm thankful to Mannat Kothari, our chairperson, FICCI Flow Ludhiana, for curating such a wonderful session. My heartfelt thanks to our platinum sponsors, Akshita from Aurika Spices, Vandana Verma from Araya Resorts, Palampur, Karanveer Sidhu from Headmasters, Satyan Bhatia from IMC, our gold sponsors, Amit Kothari from KJ Forgings, Shelly Sood from Sood Studios. Our silver sponsors are Nidhi Jain, makeup artist, Sanya Chawla from Glam Talks magazine, our annual sponsor, Manav Mittal from Mangalam Diamonds, our PR partner, Sukriti from Penumbra, technical partner, Preet Chandok from 01 Synergy. And lastly, thank you everyone for being a wonderful audience. Stronger together, stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.